The police, so he took off. He hit the accelerator. The police stayed on his tail, but every time they got close, he'd get faster. Finally, they got him to stop. The police officer said, "Why did you keep running away from us?" He said, "Well, my wife ran off with a police officer, and I thought you were bringing her back." That's Leroy. That's one of those Leroy Jones jokes. It hasn't lately. Been having some issues. I'm sure General Van Coach said he'll be here at 12:30. He gets here no later than 12:35. So I need to recognize a couple of people who are here for the first time. We are really honored to have FAMU's first senior woman's athletic administrator here. She was the first woman to head up that part of the athletic program for FAMU. And I'm going to ask her to say a few words. Now, she's a great rattler, but she don't often just say a few words. So I'm going to ask Sarah Hill. Folks, let's give Sarah Hill a big round of applause. Where's Sarah Hill? Where's Sarah? Oh. Sarah, I didn't mean to interrupt your meal. But Coach will be here soon, but until Coach gets here, if you would just say a few words.
Good morning. It's always nice to be back in Tallahassee. Right now I'm residing in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm torn between coming back permanently or just being a snowbird as I am right now, getting a chance to come back to special occasions like this. I'm honored to be here with you. This is my first time attending the 2020 Club Luncheon. Got a call from Brian Lucas, who's on the Sports Hall of Fame Committee, which I share with Vaughn and 9 others. We're very happy to be in town this weekend to put on the FAMU Sports Hall of Fame ceremony on Friday in Lee Hall at 7 o'clock p.m. And we're inducting some very special former student athletes and supporters and contributors. So if you have not gotten your ticket, we hope you go on the Eventbrite and join us. But I just want to back up just for a minute. Eddie said senior women's administrator. When I was hired, we were called just women's athletic directors. And that's special to me because that was the beginning of women athletic administrators. And we were able to do some good things to set the foundation for women's athletics that is still going on today. And one of the things that we pride ourselves on accomplishing is getting funding for women's athletics through the state of Florida using earmarked state dollars, which is still in place today, supporting the women's athletic program, because the state does not support and does not earmark dollars for athletics. So that was a special funding that was done back in 1979. And the women's athletic directors at the 9 state universities were able to get that done by lobbying the state legislators. So I'm very proud of that, very proud of what the program has accomplished and is still accomplishing today. I'm excited about the program, excited about what's happening, and we're just hoping this season of athletics, which is going on right now, we have good times and bad times. This might be a tough time right now, but the Rattlers shall survive. We shall strike and strike and strike again. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Of course, before I bring you up, I want to tell a quick story. My first year as Director of Sports Information, if Jake Gaither had one nemesis in college football, it was John Merritt, the coach of Tennessee State University. He was the only coach, I think, who had a competitive edge on Jake in terms of victories. And then Jake didn't care for Merritt in a way because Merritt, while he was a great coach, he was full of fun and games. And my first year, Tennessee State came to town and shut the Rattlers out 29-0. And Jake was devastated. And the next year, Jake had put a great team back together, led by Ken Riley. We won our first 4 games, shut out 3 of our first 4 opponents, went up to Tennessee State, and that night, while the Rattlers were supposedly asleep in their dorm, somebody ran down the hallway with a stick about 3 a.m. in the morning, trying to wake the Rattlers up, keep them from sleeping. One of the Rattlers got to his door in time and saw who the culprit was, and believe it or not, it was Coach Merritt. 3 a.m. That night at the game, nobody could find the coach's headphones. And everybody was waiting on the game to start. Jake said, I'm not going to play one down until we get our headphones. Merritt said he just couldn't find them for whatever reason. After a while, Merritt gave in and somehow they found the headphones. And things went downhill after that because we had a great defense. We kicked off to Tennessee State. They ran 3 plays and punted. How many people remember Jumping Joe Williams? Jumping Joe Williams, great punt returner, got hit, fumbled the ball, and also got hurt. Tennessee State recovered the ball and scored 7-0, just like that. We couldn't move the ball. We kicked again at Tennessee State. They couldn't move the ball. They punted. Coach had sent Eugene Milson in to take Jumping Joe's place. Eugene had never caught a punt or run it back. He fumbled. Tennessee State recovered, scored 14-0. Game just started. I don't know if anybody here old enough to have been at that game, besides me. You were there? Okay. Next time we got the ball, same thing happened. We couldn't move it. Tennessee State couldn't move it. They punted. I don't know who was, I think it may have been Milton. He may have been back there that third time as well. Whoever it was fumbled. Tennessee State recovered. Touchdown, 21-0. and it went further downhill after that. So that when we got back to Tallahassee, that Monday I had to take the stats to the coaches meeting, because they hadn't met yet. So I went down to Gates Gym, and in the hallway, Coach Oglesby and Coach Kittles was standing in the hallway, afraid to go into the room. Coach Kittles, Oglesby would say, Oglesby and Kittles, Oglesby would say, "You open the door, go in." He said, "I ain't going in there." And I wasn't part of the coaching staff, so I just walked on in with the stats, and they came in behind me. And Jake gave him a really, really hard time. I don't remember exactly what he said. The only part I remember is that he said, "From now on, all those of you responsible for making sure we have a backup in case somebody gets hurt, like Joe Williams." He said, those of you who coach the defensive end, and he said, "Just forget about coaching them. Y'all just do calisthenics. I'll coach everybody." I remember him saying he was quite mad, a lot of anger. He was really upset. But later that day, he called all the coaches in again. He was still angry. He said, "I got a report that one of my coaches was partying it up last night at a club. And one young lady had a hat said, 'This belonged to the coach.'" So Jake said, "Which one of you was at that club?" All of them said, "Not me, coach. Not me." So Jake said, "Pete, Coach Griffin, let me see your hat." And Pete showed the hat. "Oglesby, where's your hat?" Everybody showed their hat. When everybody had a hat, the room got quiet. Coach Griffin, who was assistant head coach, said, "Excuse me, Coach Gates, but where's your hat?" Coach looked around on the floor, couldn't see his hat. His hat was nowhere to be found. All the coaches started laughing. Jake started laughing. The tension was broke. Jake said, "All y'all get the hell out of my office." And the next year, Tennessee State came to town. And Ken Riley led us to a 37-13 victory over Tennessee State. And all was forgiven. Now, I said all that to say, when Rudy Hubbard Rattlers beat the Miami Hurricanes, one of the Miami Hurricane alumni said, "This will never happen again." And they started raising more money and supporting the Hurricanes because they didn't intend to have another loss from Florida A&M. And I noticed this, I was reading Deion Sanders' remarks after the game. And he said, when South Carolina State upset Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl, he said, "I will never be outmanned again." And somehow, I don't know how he was able to increase the resources at Jackson State, but Jackson State has 17 coaches, people. 4 of them are what you call analysts. They are retired head coaches who have nothing to do but analyze Jackson State opponents. And so he resourced up somehow. And I mention that because it's time for you and I to say this will never happen again. All right? All right. True Rattlers know how to lose just like they know how to win. And we got a great team. We got a great coach. And I want you to know that if you go pledge to do more to support this team, because we are partially responsible for what happens to the football program. And so if you believe that, I take great pride in bringing to the mic the head coach of the Florida A&M Rattlers, Coach Willie Simmons.
All right, take a seat, take a seat. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see Orange and Green again, and good to see Pastor Holmes back in the back. So again, obviously, took a beating on the chin this past weekend, and a lot could be said about, why that was the case. But the main thing is, again, we had a long talk yesterday morning as a football team, and I kind of let them vent a little bit, just open the floor up, ask them, how they felt, and what they think went wrong last week, and just kind of let them get some of those emotions out. And it was a good, powerful meeting. And then after that, after we got the emotions out, I asked myself, okay, well, tell me something good that happened last week. And the room got real quiet, and nobody seemed to say anything. I said, clearly something. So one of the guys finally blurted out, well, Coach, we're breathing. I said, amen, we are breathing. Still alive. So, and after that kind of broke the ice, and some other guys talked about, the food was good, the hotel was really nice, the bonding activities, going to the beach, going to Dave and Buster's, a lot of those things were great experiences for some of those guys. Believe it or not, some of our guys have never been to the beach, and can't afford to go to Dave and Buster's. So, just some of those experiences that those guys were able to have. That's what makes the Orange Blossom Classic a good bowl game experience, because again, we get to be there for a few days and really show those guys something outside of football and school. So that was a positive. Of course, we all know that this team has been through a lot mentally over the last couple of weeks, and I think Sunday was kind of a boiling point, just a culmination of just a lot of hidden emotions, buried emotions, compartmentalized feelings that just when you're masking a lot of those things, you never really get them out. What tends to happen is, as long as things are going okay, you're able to maintain, right? Going into North Carolina, we had no pressure, right? No one really expected us to win. I think we were 50-point underdogs. So again, we're down 20-some players, without our best players on defense, without a starting right tackle on offense, and so nobody really gave the guys a chance to do anything. So they kind of went in with the mindset of, hey, we'll just let it all hang out, and whatever happens, happens, and we get beat, nobody cares, nobody expects anything of us. And so they were able to really kind of hide a lot of those just hidden deep down feelings and emotions that they had in Carolina. But then the next week, now all of a sudden it's game week, it's a conference game. It's a game that a huge portion of our season is riding on, and now the focus, I guess, is a little bit different, right? It's not a guarantee game where we just hope the check clears and we get out of town. All right, well, this one is for all the marbles, so to speak. And so going into the game, I felt that we had a pretty good plan together on both sides. The tough thing defensively is that this was their coordinator's first game ever calling. So our defensive coaches didn't have a great feel for what they would do on offense. Kind of had a little bit of an idea, but he had never called a game before. Defensively had the same staff intact, and so we had a pretty good idea, or we thought at least, of what they would do defensively. And going to the game, and we had talked really that night before about just playing with a level head, keeping our composure. The ref never sees the first one, it's always the second one. And we go out the first play, we get a few yards, go out the second play, get a positive run, it's 3rd and 2. Well, not sure if it's true or not, whatever, but the center says one of the players spit in his face. So lo and behold, he gets up and he kind of pushes the guy off of him, and the guy has an Oscar-winning flop performance, and they throw a personal foul, right? And now it goes from being 3rd and 3, which is a very manageable down, to being 3rd and 18. Right, and so that first drive just kind of stalls out before it even gets started, and then we're forced to punt the ball, and I think they end up scoring a touchdown, and at that point, I think that's when the guys just kind of we lost our composure, right, and just kind of lost it, and we never really able to gain it back. And so offensively, really got out of sync, got out of rhythm. Defensively, started to get frustrated, started to play me ball instead of we ball. The guys got getting out of the gaps, and so our focus was just not there. And so again, as a coach, obviously I take on that because it's my job to make sure that physically and mentally our guys are ready to play. And we kind of went throughout the last couple of weeks, really just kind of trying to hold in the road, so to speak. You know, we knew that the guys were stressed and frustrated. You know, we left on Wednesday morning without a lot of guys because we still had some guys that were not certified to play. And then by Friday, we got word that, you know, Isaiah and Cam and BJ and Nick, all the guys, and some other guys had gotten cleared, so we had to bring a bus of them down on Friday. And so that was a exciting moment, obviously, to learn that we had Isaiah back and those guys back, but they hadn't practiced all week, you know. And so just the uncertainty about who was gonna play or when they were gonna play, coupled with the letter that the guys wrote and the meeting they had with the administration and some of the issues that they've been facing, I just think we had a football team that was very fragile mentally. And of course, Pastor Holmes came and prayed with the team before we left to Carolina, and you know, so we kind of take for granted sometimes, and I'm guilty of it too as a coach, that we see these guys and they're so big, they're so strong, right? They're so athletic, and you know, they're taking on 300-pound guys and they're tackling 240-pound running backs, and you know, they're running through brick walls, so to speak. And so we just kind of forget sometimes that these are really some of the most fragile guys mentally that, you know, we have, because, you know, their whole lives they've been kind of just, you know, not told that they're great, but, you know, particularly in the state of Florida, when you play the game of football, people take a liking to you, right? They kind of put their arms around you, and they kind of see that you have a gift at an early age, and they really make sure that you don't fall by the wayside. I tell the guys all the time, when I was growing up, when people found out that I can play football, it changed the way they treated me. You know, I went from being that smart little kid that did all this work to being a great athlete, and now all the guys in the neighborhood that were getting into the bad things, doing all that, they would make sure that I wasn't there or I wasn't around. Like, they started doing that, you gotta go, right? Because they saw that this kid has a future. This kid will make something of himself, and so they protected me. And that's the way a lot of our guys are. They've been protected by the neighborhoods, by teachers, by coaches, by church members, and the like. And so they never really had to face a lot of true adversity until they step foot on the heights of Seven Hills, because they lose that mother, that grandmother, that aunt, that godmother who's kind of been there with them every step of the way. And that's now replaced by coach or my coaches, which typically we're all men. Right, and believe it or not, a lot of our guys struggle with male authority because a lot of them don't have it growing up because dad's not there, unfortunately, right? And so, you know, the reality of it is we still have a very talented football team. Our talent has not dwindled. We're still very fast. We're still very athletic. And we still have a group of guys that when they do things the right way, they play really good football. And we saw that for 3 quarters up in Chapel Hill. You know, we ran out of gas in the 4th quarter, and we didn't see it at all on Sunday. That was probably one of the weirdest games I've ever been a part of as a coach. You know, the old saying, Murphy's Law, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Every single thing that you can think about in a football game that can go wrong went wrong for us on Sunday. You know, we get a low snap, and we throw a pick six on a guy that's open, but because the snap is low, quarterback is a little bit late on the throw, and it's a pick six. We throw it again, the ball hits the guy square in the face mask, believe it, pops up in the air, another interception. The center's literally, I've never seen this one happen. Center snaps the ball and hits him in the butt. I guess he thinks we're on the center and we're in the shotgun, and just rolls around and he kicks the ball and they pick it up and they go and score. We punt the ball and we kind of check into an overload, which is something we've never done. And we get the punt block for 6. So, I mean, the game got out of reach because we gave them 28 points, basically. And we literally gave Jackson and hand-gifted them 28 points. And, you know, the other 30, 20-some points, I mean, they earned those. You know, we got to play the deep ball better. We got to work really hard at cornerback to play the deep ball better. You know, Shadul was able to kind of throw some 50-50 balls, which is what we call when the cornerback and the receivers, they're fighting for a ball. We call it 50-50. You know, 50% chance the receiver catches it, 50% chance he doesn't. Well, they were 100% on those. They caught them all. And so we obviously got to do a better job of contesting those throws, Outside of Isaiah Land, because he was able to get to Shador a few times, we got to be able to find a pass rush opposite 31, right? Because again, their game plan was to make sure 31 didn't beat them. So they slid to him, they chipped him with the running back, they chipped him with a tight end. They made sure, and he still got back there twice, but they made sure that he was not going to single-handedly disrupt their passing attack, and their game plan was to get the ball out of his hands quickly. And so, defensively, obviously we have to make some adjustments of if that's the team's game plans, to get the ball out, to make sure that 31 doesn't get 3, 4, 5 sacks a game against them, then we have to have a way to make sure that we are able to break on balls sooner, sit on routes a little bit quicker, get our hands up as a defensive line, and disrupt some of their quick game, because again, he was able to kind of see what we were in and just kind of pick us apart. And then offensively, we have to find a way to consistently establish the run and protect the quarterback. And we've kind of been, the line has been kind of been in flux, obviously with the uncertainty of Cam, so we've had to move some guys around. Then we lost, obviously, 2 guys at North Carolina. Had to move some guys around again. Then once we got Cam back, had to move some guys back to normal positions. And so just now being able to find a core group of 5 guys that can work together is going to be critical up front, because the offensive line has to work in unison, and you can't do that if you don't practice together. And that group just hadn't been able to practice together, for 2 weeks. And so now that we feel we actually have a quote-unquote starting 5, we can be more consistent up front, and we'll be able to run the ball. We'll be able to get back to being able to throw the ball efficiently. And the reality of it is we won't play two better teams than we played the first 2 weeks. Right, that's just the way the schedule worked out this year. Carolina was supposed to be a week 4 game. We got moved up to week 0 for TV. So again, we end up playing the 2 best teams on our schedule the first 2 weeks. And so, we'll be able to, when we take the field from now on, we'll be as equally matched or overmatching anybody we play. We'll have more talent than anybody we play, or it'll be close to equal. I think Southern has a pretty good little team. South Carolina State obviously has a really good team. And so those 2 teams, the talent will be close, but the other 7 games, we should have an advantage as far as the talent goes. So, again, it's not time to push the panic button by any stretch of the imagination. When you play really good teams and you make really bad mistakes, that's what happens. It can get out of hand pretty quickly. And it was still a ball game up until about midway through the 3rd quarter, right? We went in at halftime. We said we can stop them on defense, we can get the ball and score. It's a 2-point game, a 2-score game, we're back in it. Obviously we didn't do that, we didn't stop them, and then once we got the ball back, we kind of stalled out again. But again, the game was in reach until about midway through the 3rd. And so we just got to find a way to get back to doing the little things right. We've turned the ball over now, I think 5 times in 2 games, 3 interceptions and 2 fumbles. Which is way too many, and I don't think we've gotten any on the defensive side. So I think we're -5 in the turnover margin battle, which is something that you always want to win. And so we got to figure out a way to protect the football on offense. We got to make sure that we create pressure enough on defense to knock a ball out or get an interception or do some things disruptive on the other side of the ball. And then special teams, we got to get back to playing solid fundamental ball. Again, the mistakes we made in that area are all correctable. A lot of the mistakes we made in Sunday's game are correctable. The only thing I would say for the first time, and this is when I knew the team was just mentally broken, we've never not finished the game. I don't care what the score indicated, we've never not played for 60 minutes. Our guys quit on Sunday, and that was a telling sign, because that means that they're not mentally where they need to be. And because again, Central Florida in 2019, we got beat like a drum, but those boys played hard every single snap. Southeastern game last year, it was 38-0 going into the 4th, and our guys fought, and we ended up scoring 2 touchdowns late because we said we're not going to get shut out. And they played every single snap all the way to the end. Troy in 2018, same thing. South Carolina State 2018, same thing. Our guys have never not played for 60 minutes. Sunday, I saw guys start to shut it down. And that's when I knew right then. I said, okay, yeah, psychologically, we're not where we need to be. And so this week has really been about trying to get the guys back mentally. And again, they've done a really good job. We had a really good practice yesterday. Had a good special teams meeting this morning. Looking forward to another good practice today. And sometimes, as we all know, the best thing to do when you've been knocked down is to get right back in the ring. And the good thing for us is we got a short week, and we get to get right back in, and we're home, right? There's never been a better time to get back at Bragg Stadium than where this team is right now. We need the confines of Bragg Stadium. We need to sleep in our own beds. We need to eat in our own cafeteria. We need to wear our own home uniforms. We need to see our own fans in the stands, and just some familiarity. Other than getting on a plane or getting on a long bus ride, we need to be back at home. So excited to be back at Bragg this weekend. Should be an electric atmosphere. Albany State's going to come in and give us everything they have, right? They're not going to be intimidated. They're not going to lay down. They're a championship football team. They won the SIAC last year. They're the #1 ranked Division II HBCU right now in the power rankings. And Coach Gardenia does a great job. You guys got to hear him this summer. So they're going to be enthusiastic. They're going to play hard. They've been here before. That we scrimmaged them back in 2020 during the COVID spring. And they came down here and played physical football, right? And that's their brand. Their brand is to be a physical, tough football team. They're not necessarily say prolific. They're not a prolific offense, so to speak, where they're going to try to run the scoreboard up on you. They believe in establishing the run, playing really good defense, and just being fundamentally sound. So it's going to challenge us to get back to being who we are as a fundamentally sound football team, as a team that plays explosive on the perimeter. We got to get our playmakers more involved offensively, and then in the secondary, we got to challenge receivers a lot better than we have the first 2 weeks. I think we've given up 11 touchdown passes in 2 games, which is just, way too many, right? So we got to challenge guys in the back end. We lost 2 really good players, Marquise Bell and Antoine Collier, but a lot of those guys coming back do have game experience, and they just have to play with confidence to know that the ability that they have, the coaching, the teaching that they're getting is going to put them in position, right? And so, we've had some turnover. We lost Coach Sharp this summer, who was our co-DC and secondary coach. And but we lost Coach Lemke, but we did replace him with really good coaches. The guys just got to trust that what these new coaches are telling them is the right thing to do, right? And so we're getting back to that. Like I told them the other day, I told the coaches, I'm not pushing the panic button. There's no need to. We're still the same talented group that we knew we had coming into the spring. Into this fall camp. We still have a few more guys we need to get certified that will help us as far as depth at some key positions. But we should roll out there Saturday at 6 o'clock with an inspired football team that's ready to play, ready to get a win in the W column, and ready to do like we did last year, which is make a run and hopefully put a resume together enough that gives us a chance for postseason play. If Jackson State slips up and loses 2, we're right back in it. If not, we have a chance to finish 9-2. And see if we can get in that large playoff bid, which I think we will if we take care of business. And so, again, I think the future's still very bright for this program. But Eddie did make a great point, and it's something that obviously we all know. That train over there at Jackson's not slowing down, right? As long as he's the head coach there, that train's not slowing down. And there's some things we're just not going to be able to fight and compete with. The fact that his former NFL coach who's retired just says, hey, I'll just come help you out. We're not going to get that. Tommy Bowden's not going to come here and just volunteer. He's been retired for about 10 years now, and trust me, he lives on the beach down there in Destin. He ain't come to Tallahassee to volunteer and help Coach Simmons coach. So we won't get that, but the new locker room, the new the amenities that they get, the nutrition station that they have, be it as it may, their athletic director, Ashley Robinson, and I, we have a great relationship and we still talk. And the thing that he told me this summer, he was a little frustrated because the school, kind of reneged on him, right? They told him that they would pay for their nutritional station. The school told them that they'd do that. Well, then they came back and said for whatever reason they couldn't do it, to the tune of about $300,000, right? Now, it still got paid for because Ashley Robinson had $300,000 sitting in the reserve to pay for it. But that's the commitment that they have to their nutrition station, $300,000 to pay for nutrition for their student athletes. And so again, that's the different playing field that they're having in relation to our student athletes. And so again, he's building something there that is pretty admirable to see. But again, in the same conference, we can't sit there and watch in admiration and say, oh, wow, look at what they're doing. We got to figure out a way to catch up. Just like teams are trying to catch up to Alabama, trying to catch up to Ohio State, trying to catch up to SC and Georgia in their conference. We got to catch up because again that train's not slowing down. And so again, you guys continue to do what you're doing. Now, this speech and message is not for you all. Y'all do what we asked you to do. But my ask is that you encourage other Rattlers, other levels of FAMU and FAMU athletics and FAMU football to see what their commitment is. Right? We'll continue to work and grind and do our part, and we have to get better. All right? But at the end of the day, it does take resources to build a championship program, and we're not terrible, but we're not elite either. And so we definitely need to work to continue to get closer to elite status as far as our facilities, as far as our staffing. We're down a coach right now. One of our coaches had a health scare coming from North Carolina, so he hadn't been with us, and may not be with us for the foreseeable future. He's fine. I mean, he ain't dire, but he's not able to be with us right now. So we're down one coach, and we'll make do with that. But at the end of the day, it's a little tough when you play a team that's got 4 analysts that can break down everything that you've done. And I never felt, this was probably the first game that I've coached in, that I felt that they were just a step ahead of us on every play. It was like everything we thought they were doing, like they're not in that, they're in something else. And I was never able to get a good beat on what they were in defensively. When we called a play that would beat man coverage, they would be in zone. When we called a play to beat zone, they'd be in man coverage. We're like, hold on, something ain't right. They got our signals or something's going on. And defensively, Shadul was just able to just kind of pick us apart. Like he knew every play that we were going to be in, and he knew exactly where to go with the ball. But when you have people the analysts, all they do is they analyze data. They run the analytics, and they say on first down and this personnel grouping, on this down and this, on this play, area of the field, Coach Simmons like to call this play. In this situation, on this personnel grouping, on this down and distance, Coach Smith likes to call this defense. And when you break us down over the course of, for me, 10 years as a play caller, I'm pretty sure I have some tendencies of when I like to do things and how. Coach Smith, you break us down last season, you can kind of see what we like to do. And that's what NFL football is. That's what high-level major college football is. You have a full-time staff of 11, but you have about 10 more coaches who are in quality control, analyst roles, and those type things that assist to keep the coaches just in coaching. All the coaches at those places have to worry about doing is coaching football. They don't have to worry about the numbers. They don't have to worry about class checks. They don't have to worry about discipline and all those things. They just coach ball. And so again, that's kind of what he's building there with the coaching the staff he's been able to assemble. And we're not saying that we're going to be able to go toe for toe with them, but we need to definitely continue to raise our profile because again, when we make this push to the playoffs and we get there, we need to have a staff that's able to again do the things that we do. And so again, we're excited. Obviously, no one likes to get beat. No one likes to get beat bad. But it's life. And I reminded the guys yesterday one of the powerful things about last week. We had an opportunity at the dinner on Thursday night to listen to the sponsor for the dinner, one of the title sponsors for the game. I think the name is Celsius. No, not Celsius. It's a group that's doing lending for, basically it's going to be a lot of minority families that you don't need a credit score. So basically you set up a bank account. If you pay your bills on time, over a period of time, you can get a home with no credit. So it's a company that's doing that. And one of the speakers for the company is a woman who spent 21 years in prison. 21 years in prison and got out. And then she told her story, didn't have any credit, didn't have, money, didn't have anything. And she's been able to work her way back to now she's with the company, she's doing great for herself. And I reminded the guys yesterday, she had to wait 21 years for her redemption. We had to wait 2 days. We played on Sunday, we were back on the field Tuesday. So we only had to wait 2 days to get back to doing what we love to do. She had to wait 21 years. And the question is, what was she willing to do when she got out? She didn't get out feeling sorry for herself. She didn't get out hanging her head down. She didn't get out saying she didn't have credit or she didn't have money or she went out and she went to work and she built a life for herself that she can be a contributor to society now, right? So the question for us as Rattlers is, what are we gonna do now? Are we gonna hang our heads? Are we gonna feel sorry for ourselves? Are we gonna wait for people to come and pat us on the back? Or are we gonna do what we've done since we've gotten here, since 2018, and go to work? right? We don't have, I think we only have one losing streak, and that was in 2018. After that, we don't lose back-to-back games. So let's go to work. Let's dig our heels in the sand. Let's continue to believe in what our philosophy is, which is doing the little things right and outworking our competition. And let's get back to doing and being who we are. And I feel confident that this team will do that. So again, very excited about everything. Look forward to seeing everyone here this weekend. Let's come out, let's be loud, let's be vigilant. Let's show Albany State what playing in Bragg really feels like, right? And the home field advantage is what we need. And so we look forward to bringing the win to Bragg. And because we do, and now opening for questions, but we currently have the 4th longest home winning streak in the country, okay? 4th longest home winning streak in the country belongs to FAMU. We have not lost a game in Bragg since 2018, right? And we want to continue that this season, okay? 5 home games, we need to end 2022 and say we ain't lost a home game in Bragg since 2018, and that starts this weekend, all right? So let's give our great fan base and our team a great home field advantage. And let's start this 9-game winning streak, or 10-game. Let's see how many games in the playoffs. Got to win 4 to win it all. See if we can go on about a 12, 13-game winning streak here and bring another national title to the House of 7 Hills. But again, excited and look forward to answering questions about either last weekend or this weekend. No, we don't currently have any analysts. No, sir. Mm-hmm. Right, so those are 2 different things. So APR is one thing, our certification issues is completely separate. So APR is tied to eligibility and retention. So for every scholarship, the way APR works, for every scholarship student athlete that we have, at the end of every term, you get a point for being eligible, which means you passed at least 6 hours, and you're over 2.0. And then you get a point for retention, which means you came back to school. And then after the spring semester in 2 semesters, then you have to have passed 18 total hours between fall and spring, still maintain your GPA, and then return for the following term. So that's how APR works. It's just a ratio for any kid that's on athletic aid. And so we have had some issues with our APR. Some of them are, like, for example, we had 2 kids in 2019 who walked at commencement, at commencement, who didn't technically graduate. They're 3 hours short. They didn't pass the class or didn't turn up. Something happened where they're now 3 hours short from graduating. Well, that's 2 APR points that we lost right then. And if they just come back and get their degree, then we get those points back. And so we have some issues, some situations like that. We have had some freshmen that have come in and that have struggled. And so the thing with APR, and I'll talk about the certification after that. The thing with APR is this: it's a matter. The NCAA does require that we maintain APR. They are penalizing schools who don't. So because of that, coaches now have to make a really tough decision. If we sign a young man, right, Chris Williams, say from right here in Tallahassee, right? Chris Williams just got to FAMU in his 2nd year of college. But let's say Chris has a poor semester, right? He's not a true freshman, so to speak, but he's here for the first time and kind of adjusting to what life is like on the House of 7 Hills. Well, if Chris has a rough semester and he doesn't maintain his GPA or he fails some classes, we're going to lose those APR points. So at that point, as a coach, I have a decision to make. Do I let Chris go and remove him from scholarship to not potentially lose more APR points, or do we try to do what FAMU's done for 140 some years and save this gentleman, give him a chance to get acclimated and learn how to be a college student here, right? That's the question. I've leaned as a head coach towards the second one, because there have been a lot of guys that have come here as freshmen and they've struggled that anywhere else in America, they would have let them go. They would just kick them out of school and just say, man, go to JUCO, go do whatever you got to do, and we'll see if we see it. But I made a commitment to these kids' parents when we recruited them, when we signed them, to say we're going to see them across the finish line. And so that's where the discussions that we're having internally have had to come into play. What's our philosophy as far as our students? Are we not going to be the school that turns the kid loose the moment he struggles? Because he may potentially cost the football team some APR points. And if that's what we're going to be, then that's what we're going to be. So there'll be some kids that are in school for one semester and then they're gone just because they struggle, right? And so I haven't done that. And because of that, we've lost some APR points, but we've kept these kids in school. And some of these kids now are going to graduate, and we'll end up getting a point back for them, but it's because I didn't turn my back on them. And so it's a double-edged sword, so to speak, when it comes to APR. I think that they get.
The points go from year to year.
It's a yearly ratio. So every semester, it rolls over every semester. And then they calculate it at the end of every year, and then they do a rolling 4-year average. And so this year, we'll count 21, 22, 21, 20, 19, and 18. And they'll average out those 4-year scores, and then they'll give us a 4-year score. And if that 4-year score is below 920 or 930, then they say, okay, well, there's potential for sanctions. And so we've had some up years, we've had some down years, and so it kind of fluctuates. And our best score was 18, that fell off, or 17, 18, whatever year it was, that fell off. And so it causes that 4-year average to go way down. So for us, we have to have a really good year this year to kind of balance those numbers back out. And so that's the APR part of it. So yes, we've had some young men that struggle. I talked about that last week at the quarterback club over in at Florida State. Because the reality of it is, a lot of our guys, they're not, as sad as it is, they're not equipped to come in and do college level work immediately. They're not. Most of the guys that we recruited from Title III schools, right? They don't come from college preparatory schools. They come from, inner city schools a lot of times. And so to go from that environment where you are looking at NCAA eligibility, because that's what high school student athletes are looking at. They look at NCAA eligibility. Can I be eligible to play when I go to college? Well, to play as a freshman, by NCAA terms, now they do give each school the chance to set their own barometer that may be higher than this, but the minimum NCAA requirement is a 2.3. You just gotta have a 2.3 in 16 core courses. And they waived ACT, SAT since COVID. So it used to be 2.3 with 68 points on ACT, which is about an average of a 17, and 920, I think, on the SAT, right? That was the bare minimum. So a student athlete from Tallahassee, from Quincy, from Miami, from Jacksonville, they're not looking at trying to have the 3.97 that our other students are coming in with. They're trying to get a 2.3. They're trying to get a 17 to say, I can play this year. And so it's a different mindset of the student athletes we're recruiting and the regular students that we're recruiting. And so that's the question that I'm continuing to pose to our administration. If we're going to allow what we consider special talent, which means a student can get into FAMU that falls below the general admission requirements because of their ability to play a sport, their ability to play an instrument, they're a legacy student, or they go to our lab school. Those 4 students get a chance to come in underneath the general admission requirements. Anybody else, you gotta have a 3.0 with a 1020 on ACT. That's the bare minimum. If you don't have that, you automatically get a denial letter from FAMU. And so if we're gonna let students come in under that, what are we gonna do to help them when they get here? We gotta give them resources to help them, right? And that's just a common, to me, it's common sense, right? If I recruit a young man who we say he needs to gain weight, and he comes in here and we don't give him any nutrition, I can't look at him in a year and say, you're not gaining weight, what's wrong with you? We're not doing anything to help him gain weight, right? If I say he needs to lose weight, I say he needs to get stronger, get faster. Whatever it is, if I'm not providing the resources for him to do so, I can't turn around and look at him and say that he's not doing it. So yes, we do have some students that have struggled at FAMU. But if we don't have the academic resources to help them, then can we really blame the student? I don't think that's on the student. I think they're doing what they've been known to do their entire lives. Because at certain schools, I'm not gonna call names, at Gadsden County High School, I'll say my own. At Shanks High School, when I came out, at Gadsden County High School, they aren't prepared. I was a 3.97 student coming out of Shanks High School with 49 transferable college credits when I got to Clemson. And I'm sitting in my freshman year like, I'm about to fail everything. I don't know how to study, because I never had to study. I had to teach myself my freshman year how to study. Oh, I was gonna fail biology. And I said, there's no way Willie Simmons is gonna kill me for failing biology. So I taught myself how to study. Luckily, I had enough in me to do that. Well, not every kid's come out of high school with 49 transferable credits and a 3.9 GPA. So for that young man that finds himself struggling and he doesn't have an answer, what's he gonna do? He's probably gonna fail that class. And so we gotta commit ourselves, aside from the training table, aside from the facility enhancements, we have to commit to providing the academic resources, the tutorial services, the mentoring services, the advising. All those things have to be increased in order for our student athletes to, and primarily football, to be able to make it across the finish line. And that's where we are. Certification is a totally different issue. We just have some clerical things that we still got to submit to the NCAA. We got 8 more guys that are waiting to get certified, and none of them are technically, they all meet in progress towards degree. They all have the right GPA. Everything is, the boxes are all checked. The only thing is, they had a change of major, they had a change of a grade or something like that, that because it triggered after classes started, we have to just make sure that we submit that to the NCAA, so when they come in and do an internal audit, because we're on probation, it doesn't look like we're playing an ineligible player. Because the system says on August 22nd, the first day of classes, that he was majoring in allied health, but on the 23rd, his major says he was majoring in psychology, and he's eligible in psychology. It can look like he was ineligible in allied health. So that's why we have 8 guys that aren't certified. They are not ineligible. They all have the right GPA, they all have the right hours, and that's why I made that point adamant last week. Stop saying ineligible players. We don't have ineligible players. We have players that aren't certified to compete because of our internal processes to make sure that we're dotting our I's and crossing our T's. And so that's where we are with that. And we can hopefully get those guys cleared this week, and we can put this whole certification thing behind us to let these guys just focus on going to class and playing ball. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And so I think, so basically what he said was, to my point, HBCUs have been doing that forever, right? Giving students a second chance. And some of us, it takes us 4 years, 5 years to graduate as opposed to 4. Some it takes 6. Some like Eddie, it took 10. But we have to eventually stay in there long enough to get it done. And so the conundrum is, do we, and we know where we are as far as the state university system and the performance-based funding and all those metrics we have to reach. And so that's where the discussion has to be had of what's our commitment to our underserved population. We know we're recruiting a higher profile regular student than we ever have, right? The average GPA of what a FAMU student coming in now is right at a 4.0. The average SAT, ACT scores are upper 20s, even almost into the 30s, right? So a lot of us, if we were coming out today, we'd be at TCC for 2 years. Then we transfer to FAMU because we wouldn't be able to get in, right? And that's just the reality. So because we're doing that, we have to make sure that we are committing ourselves to serving all of our students, not just the ones that are coming in as high achievers academically, but all of them. So the ones that aren't meeting those benchmarks, what's our commitment to making sure that they succeed? Because they can, they just can't do it without resources. And so, to your point, every year when they run the APR report, if there are 10 schools that fall below the threshold, guess what the percentage is HBCU versus PWI? About 70%. 7 of the 10 are going to be HBCUs that fall below APR guidelines. And I think that's for 2 reasons. 1, lack of resources. And 2, again, our commitment to give that young man or that young woman a chance when other schools would just kick them to the curb. And so, yes, we have to figure out how to fix this problem, but it is an HBCU problem. It's not just a FAMU problem, it's an HBCU problem, and we got to make sure that we do what we can to mitigate it. So I think we talked about that a little bit this summer. So he asked if high school coaches and administrators are aware of this issue we're having and if they're doing anything about it. We kind of alluded to this a little bit, I think it was this summer. And I can speak for my county primarily, and even like South Georgia, right? A lot of the areas that we recruit here locally. If you're teaching in Gadsden County, if you're a principal in Gadsden County, you're not worried about college admissions. You're worried about high school graduation. Like, you're trying to get kids graduated from high school because the large percentage of them don't. 1995, when I entered Shanks High School, there was 404 students in that incoming class. 198 of us graduated. So over half the students that came in with me my freshman year didn't finish at Shanks. And so in Gadsden County, in Madison County, in South Georgia, in Taylor County, Jefferson County, we have a high school graduation problem, not a college admissions problem. We have a high school graduation problem. So all their things that they're putting together are geared towards trying to just get kids to graduate high school. So yes, they do have some student athletes that they have to try to work a little bit harder with to get them certified and eligible, but their main focus, all their resources are pooled towards just making sure we can get kids graduated so we can get them a trade, we can get them a job, we can give them something to give them a chance at life. Otherwise, they're gonna be on the streets. And so they're fighting the same issues that a lot of us are fighting just at the secondary level, right? And so it's not an easy fix. It's gonna take some really, yeah, it's a nationwide problem. Even the ones that are going, right? The sad part is even the ones that are going aren't college ready for the most part. And so that's just, again, it's a nationwide problem. There's a teacher shortage. It's just, our education system is falling by the wayside. I mean, the gap is widening between the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots are really suffering. And we're seeing that front and center when it comes to recruiting certain students. So it's definitely something we gotta work hard to fix.
Just to add a little bit to that, I was a high school administrator for over 20 years. And that problem that you mentioned that funnels up to the college also starts at the middle and elementary school. The elementary schools are trying to get their kids into middle school. When they get to middle school, they don't have to do credits, but they have to pass a certain number of class, I would say, we'll call them hours, but classes, just to get them eligible to graduate, to be promoted out of middle school. Those middle school principals are trying to get those numbers up for their school, not necessarily get them absolutely ready for high school. So you find this chain of events happening, all right? So the solution to that is us. said a few months ago, I'm going to go in and get myself certified so that I can do some volunteer work to mentor or help some of our college athletes. I can't do mathematics, but I'm pretty good in arithmetic. And I'm very good in reading and writing. So I know I could probably help some of our young men and maybe just go in and tutor them. And when I mentioned this a few months ago, some of you all said that you'd be willing to do that. I think that we need to put that plan in action.
And before she steps out, I see her hiding in the back. I want to give a huge shout out to my good friend, Ms. Williams, back in the back. One of the best high school counselors in the best high school counselor in Tallahassee. You talking about preparing student athletes for college? Ms. Williams got them right. I personally sat there with her and worked transcripts and things with high school guys to get them prepared for college, right? Not just to be eligible to compete, but to graduate. And so the graduation rate of the students that she's mentored and advised, I think is probably the high. I would venture to say it's the highest here in Tallahassee. So we're waiting on her to come over there and help us out a little bit and volunteer some. But again, just a great shout out to a great friend and someone who cares deeply about these young men and women and getting them college ready so that they can go and compete, but also graduate. So it's definitely something that we definitely got to work hard to fix. Right. Any more questions?
What kind of mentoring do you require? Lifestyle mentoring or academic mentoring?
Hey, our guys need everything they can get. They need everything. They need academic mentoring. They need life mentoring. They need pastoral mentoring. These guys come in with a lot of questions.
Because I'm a member of an organization, retiree. We do mentoring at that.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll talk about that.
Yeah, they need it all. They need it all. They need an outlet. Like our guys don't really have an outlet to dump all the stuff on that's on their plates.
Good. Give me your email, and I'll send you a message.
Any other questions? Yes. Yeah, I'll repeat it. Go ahead.
My wife is a retired assistant principal. With that being said, we need back in our system, good athlete, we need to take them down, go somewhere else. Kids, charity. Open trailer services is out here, where kids is transported from Afghanistan, suburban, he's a good athlete.
Yeah, so and some of the students are utilizing that now, the open enrollment, transferring from school to school. But it depends on where they go. There are a lot of schools that I've recruited that you would perceive as high academic college prep schools that those athletes have gone to, and they're not preparing them. Now the rest of the students they may be preparing, but the athletes they're not doing a good job of preparing them. And so we've recruited a lot of schools from students from those schools that aren't even meeting general eligibility requirements, let alone being prepared for college. And so yes, there is a benefit to being able to say, okay, I'm at this school here that doesn't really do a great job of preparing students for college. Let me transfer to this school because they have, but when they get there, they sometimes don't get it either. So yeah, it happens. Probably more so on the other side that do benefit, but there are some instances where, because of that gift to throw or catch or run or shoot or hit a baseball, sometimes they just kind of push them on through so they can do what they need to do for the school and get out, right? So we got to fix that problem as well. Right, so that's a great question. We have really supportive parents. One of the problems that we run into a lot is the embarrassment, right? A parent I don't even want to call it embarrassment. I think it's just a stigma because the reality is a lot of the young men we recruit have a learning disability. They have a certain learning challenge. It might be dyslexia, it might be ADHD, it's a myriad of issues that our guys have, but one, a parent won't go get them tested because they don't want to label their kid, right? And so when we get them, we recognize right away, like he has a learning disability. But if the parent doesn't acknowledge that or isn't willing to take that extra step, now we're kind of fighting an uphill battle. So yes, they want their son to graduate college. They want their son to go do what he loves to do, but to be able to do that and matriculate, it takes a little bit more of a commitment from them. So we kind of try to encourage them to do so, but we got to remove that stigma from the black community, right? We got to remove that if a kid, if he has a learning disability, okay, he has a learning disability. There's nothing wrong with you. That just means you learn differently, right? But we gotta break that stigma. Same thing with mental health, right? A lot of our guys have mental health challenges that we're not addressing in the home because of a certain stigma, and so we're facing a lot of those issues here, and at a lot of the larger schools, the high resource schools, they are able to assess all that coming in. Every signee does an assessment the moment they step foot on campus. So even if he's never been diagnosed, we diagnose him here the moment he gets here. If he meets with a mental health, he has a mental health screening. So if we see that he's suffering from PTSD, right away we know about it. That's what happens at a lot of the larger schools, whereas here we don't have those resources to test every kid, to do a mental health screening for every kid. And so we as coaches have to try to self-diagnose them and say, okay, Eddie Jackson, I know something going on in that head of yours now. It's something, right? You ain't picking this stuff up. It's gotta be something that's keep you from doing it, but you gotta be careful because I can't say, you need to go get tested, right? I can't do that. So we gotta knock down some stigmas and myths in our community that's really hindering a lot of these young men. And that's what we're facing. We're facing a lot of guys with academic challenges, a lot of guys with mental health challenges, and it does not mean they can't succeed. My college roommate graduated the same time, well, I graduated 3 years, but he graduated in 4 years. And he had a severe learning disability, severe. But he had all the resources, and now he's doing phenomenal for himself in life. And he graduated from a top 25 academic institution because he had the resources. So I said, I don't have dumb kids. I don't coach dumb kids. I coach kids who have challenges, but with the right resources, they can be successful. And we just got to figure that out and get them the resources. Right. One more to Louisiana. Right. Yeah, no, I mean, it's most of the issues that we have, of course, we know are financial, right? That's why they have the term low resource institution. Resource is just short word for money, right? Low resource means you don't have a lot of money. So when it comes to what we need, there's a laundry list. We just have to prioritize where those things fall. So yes, it is a little bit challenging to ride a bus for 6, 7, 8 hours and play a game the next day. So that's why we made the decision to go to Miami a full day earlier, just to kind of let the guys go to the beach, rest their legs and all that kind of stuff. So, that if we got to the point where we can fly everywhere that's over 5 hours, that would be great, right? But I need academic support before then. I need tutorials, I need advising, I need nutrition, there are a lot of things that are check boxes that we gotta check before we get to travel, right? Because that was one of the beauties about coming to the SWAC. We don't have a lot of long trips, right? Every year we'll take a trip, like next year we'll go to Texas. We're gonna fly to Texas, obviously. When we go to Louisiana, Grambling, every 4 years. we'll fly to Grambling, right? So we will fly to the places that are very far. We'll bus up to Huntsville, right? That's a 6-7 hour bus ride. We'll bus to Baton Rouge. We'll bus to South Carolina State this year, which is about 7.5, 8 hours. So yeah, if we can get to the point one day where we can fly to those places, that would be great. We're taking 4 trip flights a year, but there are a lot of other things that I think the players need. That's a luxury to me. Flying somewhere is a luxury. Academic support's a necessity, right? So we have some basic needs that we gotta fulfill before we go to the luxuries. Getting their names on the back of the jerseys, that was great. The guys really enjoyed it. They were excited about it, but that's a luxury, right? We played football for 100-some years without names on the back of our jerseys, so I might rip them off by the way they played now. I might go and rip all of them off. But that's a good point, Pastor.
One of the things that I think ought to happen is that everything you need should be somewhere. And this is not only you. Whatever the athletic department needs, there ought to be a cost, and we ought to know what that is. And I say we because, to me, I'm very disappointed with boosters. Okay, we got 80,000 graduates. And what I learned 2 weeks ago, when we needed 98,000 in 10 days, we had a commitment for that. But I do understand priority. But what I'm saying to the athletic department, we need to know that. And the boosters, if whoever the boosters are we're not going to deliver them, we need to close shop. Because there's absolutely no reason to have a DSO call a booster group, and we don't provide the money.
Yeah, well,
So we need to, and that's not on you,
yeah.
but for your sake.
Yeah. So, well, Dr. Walker just made the point. It's and we all know it's really hard to deliver that message when we're on athletic director number 7 in 10 years, right? Like we need a consistent person there that can manage all these things and say, okay, I got 14 sports that we got to manage. They all have needs. They all have things that got to get done. So here's our wish list, boosters. Okay, so 220 Club, can you commit this to this thing? Rally F Club, can you commit this to this? National Alumni Association, can you commit this to this? Like, but we gotta have that messaging. We don't have the messaging because we don't have a leader to deliver it. Now I can tell you what football needs, but that's being selfish because we got a volleyball team that needs things too. So that's where I think, the commitment to having a solid person in that seat that's gonna be here for an extended period of time to deliver that message year in and year out, it's because it shouldn't have to be a yearly ask. We should be able to say, okay, every year we know that we got this number of flights, here's the cost. And you know that the season ends on December the 20th, December 21st, you know what the flight costs are for the next year, right? And that's and across the board, so that's where I think all of that starts. We gotta have consistent messaging, but that comes from my leader. And right now, we got an interim who may be the full time, we don't know, but until we know, like I can't, stop, Doc.
Well, I agree with that, but what I'm still saying, the next time we get one, we should have to wait to see how long he's gonna stay.
Well, but yeah, and I think that's true. Yeah.
We need a budget as to what you need, and then we need to deliver.
Right. Yeah, and I think we'll get there. We were getting there, and then we had transition, right? And so again, it's just like I'm building a program. We're recruiting better players now that we recruited in 2018. Well, if I had left in 2019, we'd be right back at the starting block, right? And then if another coach had left in 2021, we'd be so. The fact that I've been here for now 5 years, we're able to see progress in the program. I'm able to tell Eddie what we need, and we've been able to get a lot of those things done. So I think that's once we get consistency from our athletic leadership, I think we'll be able to move in the right direction.
Because of time, Coach, you have a lot of responsibility. Is the athletic director coming today? Because I think we're asking questions that's related to athletics.
Now, if they want to pay me the salary, I'll do it. No, I just gotta eat. I'm just hungry. Yeah, well, I'll take 2. I got 2 more questions. I'll take them. Okay? Thank you. Last question. Yeah, of course. So I was, so, great question. When Rashawn went in on 4th and 1, so when Jeremy scrambled, when he dropped the snap and he picked it up and he scrambled, when he reached the ball out, the official to our sideline waved the sticks and said first down. So they moved the first down marker. The other official on the opposite side came in and changed the spot. And so up top they said first down. We made a first down call. I was gonna take Jeremy out for a second to just kind of settle him down and put Rashawn in, and we had called a max protection deep ball. We were gonna try to take a shot. Well, once they took the field, the coaches up top looked and saw us and said, "Coach, it's 4th down." So we were already in a pretty big personnel group, and so instead of calling a timeout and get another play, we just checked to a run play that would have hopefully got us the first down. So when I checked to it, Rashawn saw the check, the running back saw the check, he checked it with the line. The receivers didn't see it. They saw the first signal, which was a deep ball. Well, Rashawn, thinking that he's got the opportunity to throw a quick screen out there, decides to raise up, throw the quick screen as opposed to handing the ball off. And so the receivers didn't run it, and he kind of freaked out and panicked and obviously fumbled the ball. So it was just a lack of communication across the board. It was, one, not seeing where the sticks were, two, changing the play at the line and not relaying it across the board. And then, obviously the quarterback, and that's one thing that we obviously run the risk of with a read option offense, that the quarterback has the ability to throw the ball on most every run play, right? And so I had a long talk with him afterwards to just understand the situation. Maybe he thought it was first down. I don't know. I don't know if he recognized that it was 4th and 1. And when we changed the play, I didn't know if he, really understood the situation. So wish he would have handed the ball off. Probably would have gotten the first down in that situation. But yeah, that was the rest. So we weren't subbing Jeremy. We weren't taking him out. We were just, I was gonna settle him down for a little bit. He was kind of getting, not erratic, but he was, just needed to settle down a little bit. So I was gonna take him out for a few plays, talk to him, and then, get him back in. So yeah, that's what happened on that situation there. But it was a microcosm of the night, right? Everything that could have gone wrong that night went wrong, and that was one of about 15 things that night that went grossly wrong for the Rattlers, and it was a nightmare that I didn't ever think I was gonna wake up from. All right.
One question, several people have come to me and said, "Man, Jackson State cheap. You know how to play when y'all kept up the officials and the guy snatched that guy down and caught the ball."
Yeah, he clearly pushed the guy down. So that wasn't Jackson State cheating. They ain't called it. The referee called it. So, but nah, I mean, and I told the officials during the game, I said, I wish we were playing better, because I really could say something to you right now, but you're down by 28. And we're beating ourselves just as bad as y'all are beating us, but there were some early things I thought. The first personal foul I thought was a little questionable. Like, come on, the guy flopped clearly, and but I mean, it's part of it. So, but we'll be fine. Again, hope everybody's got their tickets for this weekend. If you don't, you know where the box office is. And Coach, you got your hand up, Coach, or you? Okay, last question from Coach. I was wondering what she was doing over there. Can't leave till you ask.
She didn't go to Miami, she never asked no question.
I saw Ryan in my living room. Coach, I'm glad I didn't see you Sunday. Because I was mad with you Sunday. But I went in my prayer room. I had a little talk. So I'm calmed down now. I just want you to know, I appreciate you being the coach that you are. Because most coaches don't take that kind of responsibility. They're not honest like you are. I appreciate your honesty for taking the blame on your shoulders, not just yourself personally, but for the whole team. I appreciate that in you being a coach. But don't let Sunday happen no more.
Come on. We made that clear after the game.
I'm not gonna wait till Wednesday. I'm gonna be in your office before Wednesday, okay?
Trust me, you have to worry about that. Now, these guys, that's the last time you'll see the Rattlers play that poorly on our watch. So, appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Y'all know that. Thank you for everything you do. See y'all this weekend. Go Rattlers.
I had to make one correction. Coach said he didn't have any mentors. I didn't know I had been let go. Elaine, thank you for saying something I meant to introduce you. I got caught up. I don't know, I'm sure that our athletic director must have been called to a special meeting or something. He told me just 2 nights ago he was definitely going to be here because he promised he would be here. So if he didn't show up, something happened, and I'll find out what that is. We're having back here next week along with Coach. Oh, the Coach, what about the trophies? I'll be get the trophies to the players. I'll bring them back.
Okay, just do it right before practice starts.
When?
You do it at 3:20? 3 o'clock? What time?
Okay. We
I'm going over there. I'll drop them off.
okay. I'm after that. Barna handle that. Okay. I'm gonna be tied up. I got to talk with Albany State. Anybody, Reverend Holmes? Any comment? He doesn't want to make any comment. I want to make a comment for him. Our nutrition account just increased by $3,000 thanks to Bethel Missionary Baptist Church. I know it's late, but is there anybody who has something meaningful to say? Oh, I'm sorry, Selvin. Juan, I appreciate that because I won't be able to get crap.
Good afternoon, everybody. But before you leave, I would like to, we got a special guest here. He's a special guest because he was my roommate in college. My friend, my fraternity brother, Kevin Cox from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Kevin is a major booster. He's not a boaster. He's a major booster to our student athletes. Last week, I gave an update on the AD search. I think a lot of you all were here last week. We had a meeting this morning, and here's where we are. One other candidate came and will be interviewed Friday at 1:30. Should this candidate advance, there will be 2 interviews on Monday. And after those 2 interviews on Monday, the top 3 candidates will be submitted to Dr. Robinson for him to make a decision. So that's where we are with the Vice President Athletic Director search. A new person to the. No, I can't give the name. I can give you that number 40. Candidate 40, Mr. Hill.
I thought that when the search committee got through with the that was the last person to be included. So how did this person come in late? I know that's just something that you can't answer, but
I am one of 18 on the selection committee.
But
they,
I've been to no meetings. I've not watched it at the process at all, but I do know that when the gentleman was here, he clearly said that it was open till field, so there was not a cutoff date. He said it twice when he was here. So that's why I think that I haven't watched. I don't know the resources, but I remember the gentleman standing here said
that was some of those are some of the sentiments this morning. It's open until it's filled. Okay, all right. Thanks, everybody. Oh, you have a question?
Just a question. The president announced that he was going to help expand our compliance officers. Is that a job that has been
Yes, because one has already been hired.
Okay, thanks, Evan. All right, see you next week, same time, same place, folks.